us, LIR.com, 927LIR.com, and on YouTube. I am John Kalaboukas, the Bouk, with my friend Paul Zubulake, Zoobie. All right, my friend, the Knicks have to be the top story today because that was a collapse that we haven't seen since Reggie Miller, where Reggie Miller scored 8 points against the Knicks in less than 30 seconds. I mean, what? This is Paul. This is my nightmare. I was texting you. I do not understand for the life of me why Precious Achiuwa was not out there, because they used him in the game before, along with Adenobi. You had Robinson, Brunson, and Hart. That's the team that should have been out there, because Adenobi could have defended Maxey. That Adenobi needs to be on Maxey, not Tobias Harris. That was ridiculous. You saw that Deuce kept getting creamed by Maxey every single time. Why wasn't Precious Achiuwa out there? I don't understand it. He would have been perfect to defend against these guys.
Wow. I don't even get a word in edgewise. We should have just, I almost feel I should leave the room, and John, you can rant and go on. We should have done the rant of the week, just the Knicks epic collapse, among other unbelievable happenings in the tri-state area for sports. But the Knicks I mean, you can't even make it up. The good problem that the Knicks have is that they're still up in this series.
Yeah, but I'm going to disagree with you, because now, before they didn't have any pressure on this game, they have they have more pressure on them in this game, the next two games, because it's going to go 7. They're not winning in Philadelphia. I'm predicting it from now, because they played the past 2 games. They've played awful, and they got away with it. I'm just waiting for Philly to be on all cylinders and crush them, because right now they got away with that yesterday. I mean, Embiid did not play well at all. Maxey was going crazy. This was probably the worst coach game by Tom Thibodeau the entire year. It was almost like he was lost. I just don't understand what were they doing in the last. I mean, first of all, the foul shots were killers. I mean, we've seen
What
this
they shoot
before.
from the line? Do you know the numbers? What the Knicks?
I don't know, but I know they missed 8 foul shots.
They missed
before
8.
They lost. They missed 10.
Okay, well, that's been something they've been dealing with a lot this year, right? And there's no doubt the Mitchell Robinson disaster at the line, because I'm going to counter your lineup, because I don't want Robinson on the court.
Right.
One, he can't shoot a free throw, and let's face it, what is he thinking? He's got to think in that situation. You just let him take the 3. If he's got it, let him take it.
Right.
Pick up. I mean, like you said, it was like a self-destruction, really. And Brunson, when Hartenstein's cutting, I don't blame Hartenstein. He's going in and getting offensive rebounds. I'm shocked that he took Hartenstein out, John. I really am. And I agree with you on Achiuwa. They should play more guys, because they're playing like an iron 5. Then you get stuck going into OT and everybody's exhausted, including Brunson.
And it was Brunson against the Sixers. That's all you saw. That's when they don't play well. When it's Brunson against the entire other team, it's isolation. I'm like, no, you got to move the ball around. That's why they've been successful. Like I said, Thibodeau had a terrible coaching, just terrible, especially the last couple of minutes. I just don't understand what he was doing. And you know what? You could leave Hartenstein out there, but he can't defend Embiid for anything. He doesn't know how to. He does not know how to defend against Embiid. He gets into foul trouble quickly. If you want to put Adenobi on him and Achiuwa on Maxey, or vice versa, it's much better than having Hartenstein out there. Not, I'm talking about the closing minutes now,
Well,
where
you
you
have to
need the
make.
defense.
I know, but you can't have it both ways, right? So you just want if you want Robinson out there, you got to deal with the missed free throws and
Well,
the
no, I'm saying
fouling
that
on a three.
Robinson, yeah, Robinson, when it's
All right, so you're
close
saying
like that, you take him
Achua,
out.
but how is so you're thinking Anunoby could check Embiid enough?
Yes,
He's at like 65%, John, and he's still got a triple double. He actually almost got a quadruple double with the
yeah,
turnovers. But
yeah.
he's still, I know that was a compiler game, but they can't win without him, obviously, and he's definitely obviously not 100%.
But
But
no,
yeah,
Anunoby did a very good job against Embiid when Hartenstein and Robinson were out.
all
But
right, so you
they
would
they
go with
need to put someone taller and with a longer wingspan on Maxi. You can't
Max.
have listen, Deuce is a very good defender, but he is much smaller than Maxi. And Maxi was just shooting right over him, like he wasn't even there. And we saw it
That's
time
fair.
and time again during the game that he should have made the switch. And he actually brought it up today, or no, actually last night, Thibodeau, that maybe he should have brought in Achua in the last 30 seconds. I'm like, now you're saying it? Come on. I
Well,
was going. It was a very poor matchup. I was screaming at the TV. You don't know. I was just going. I and especially with the missed foul shots. You had Anunoby missing. You had Hart missed where it could have
yeah.
been a 4-point lead rather than three. I mean, this was 1990s Knicks nightmare all over again with missed foul shots.
All right, I understand a Nick fan as hardcore as you is on the edge of the cliff. I totally get it, but they are still up in the series, and even if it goes seven, but they have to change their tactics.
Yeah,
And my
momentum has
suggestion
Paul.
would hey,
Momentum has changed.
all right, you're on the record, so I don't know what you're calling for the complete utter collapse of your team. Okay, that's
No,
fair. That's
no,
fair.
I'm not saying utter collapse, but don't expect a victory tomorrow night.
I understand. I'm talking about the whole series in itself. I'm talking about winning the series. They are still in command, but they
Okay.
need to change their tactics, which includes getting a guy like Josh Hart a little bit of a rest because you're not going to make those free throws down the stretch when you're tired. And that is something I think they're completely ignoring the guys that they have. And you're right. Achua should be playing 20, 25 minutes in a game. I don't see why not. They should be
I don't know why.
playing more guys. Anyway,
And Di,
that's my opinion.
and DiVincenzo has been absolutely
Yeah.
invisible the past
Well,
several games.
he's
He's been off
forcing
with
it.
his shot.
Yeah, he's forcing
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of
And
force shots.
you can't expect Josh Hart to he played 50 minutes.
That's
50.
that's what I'm
50.
saying. Right.
I
It's
mean,
not unsustainable. You
it's
cannot win in
unsustainable.
the next round. And that's why they're probably not going to win in the next round, is because they're going to have to expend all this energy to get
That
through this round against a very tough team, against a player who's a really terrific player in Tyrese
yeah,
Maxey.
yeah.
And I don't blame him. Of course, everybody wants to foul when it's convenient, right? So he came around and he shot it from what, 40
Yeah,
feet?
yeah, that was
So
a
I don't
some
want to hear
shot.
people say they should have. It's like, yeah, of course. And then you want him to rush up, foul him, and he heaves it and he gets it, and it's a 4-point play.
Right, right.
So everybody always makes the fouling at the end like automatic. You're going to win every game. Now, there are circumstances. There's no doubt that you should be fouling with 2 seconds to go, things
Right,
like that.
right.
That is totally different. There was too much time. He did, and again, he threw up a long shot. I mean, the guy was on fire. Give the other side some credit for not
No,
giving.
they played as I expected the 76ers to play. I said this was going to be a war of a series. That's exactly what it is. But uh, I'm upset because, like you said, now we're going to expend more energy to finish them out in 7 rather than in 5, where they could have been healing up, resting. I mean, they've already lost Bogdanovich for the rest of the playoffs. He's gone. You don't have Randall. Robinson is basically on one foot. So we don't need any more injuries. And the fact of the matter is if for some reason the Bucks come back in this series and the Knicks win, we're going to end up facing the Bucks with Yanni and with Lillard. Yeah, that's going to be a very
Well,
difficult series. If
they
Yanni's
have a ton
healthy,
of work. Yeah, they got a ton of work to do too, Milwaukee, though. They got to win
right?
too. So let's not. So bottom line is, John, we waited an extra night to do our show. We're actually doing it
Yeah.
Wednesday, right, to post for Thursday. And thanks everybody for joining the Bouk and Zoobie show for a therapy session with Bouk needs it, and it's pretty obvious. He didn't even let me speak for the first 10 minutes, but that's okay. That's okay. I really appreciate everybody watching. Hopefully they're enjoying the content. Want to thank our partners as always, the world famous LIR 927, LIR.com, Spotify.com. Please subscribe, like the episodes. And of course, John, YouTube. I guess we're up to maybe 10th show, maybe. I'm not sure. We put out a lot of content with
Yes,
guests.
we have.
We will thank our guests again for great NHL, NBA previews. Still, it's actually good to go back and still watch these shows because you can see what we were talking about and to see how we did. So, I mean, we should, because we have to hit the tri-state, and we'll get the winter sports out of the way, and then we'll get to the NFL and
Right.
of course
By the way,
your favorite
one thing with the Knicks.
I'm gonna let you
So
go. Don't worry. Don't You'll get
the
more
last
NBA time. Go.
the last time that they were in Philadelphia, there was an overwhelming number of Knicks fans.
Yes, and they won Game 4. They
Yeah,
won Game 4. They can
yeah.
win Game 6, John. I know you're out of your
This is a
mind.
different. This is different. This
All right,
momentum has changed. The momentum has changed now. You
Uncle
gave life
Mo.
to you gave life to a team that was dead in the water. Now they have extra energy, and not only that, one of their co-owners, Michael Rubin, who's has Fanatics. He's a billionaire. Bought
Right.
2,000 tickets so the Knicks fans wouldn't get their hands on it. He's giving it out to blue-collar workers in Philadelphia today to go to the game. So we'll see. We'll see. But I don't have a lot of confidence now with them going into Philadelphia to win. But Game 7 is not going to be an easy game. It will not be an easy game. They're not going to be. They've been in every single game, and if we weren't, listen, they pulled the same thing on us like we did it against them when we scored those 7 points in 25 seconds. Same idea,
Bingo.
right?
Of
So,
course.
but
All
the
right.
momentum has changed. The
The
momentum
therapy
has changed.
session. This is the end of your therapy session, Bouk. You need to leave the office.
Well,
15 minutes. That's $500 to our fan base we have to put out there for listening to
the other therapy session was
that.
how badly the Phoenix Suns they were an embarrassment. I should have stuck with my gut with the Nuggets, but I'm going to stick by my ridiculous prediction of the Suns. They played terribly. I
Right.
mean,
So
they were
there are
wiped
a
out
few.
every single game.
Right. Yeah. So we will talk about. I guess we should, but we don't want to get too into it because we got to talk about the other locals. There's so much going on, John. So
So much.
winter sports. The Washington Capitals, no match for the Rangers, as you predicted. I was negative. I'm being negative, Paul. I'm sticking with it. They swept them. Great job across the board for everybody. And the coach, I got to compliment him. He played Matt Rempe. He wasn't afraid to play him. It was obviously the right decision. Matt Rempe should continue to play, especially at home. In this series, on the road against the Hurricanes, I could see Rempe not playing. And I'd love to start with Matt Rempe because I just think he's been a big inspiration to the Ranger fans and the team. Otherwise, just keep it going, guys. And I will. This is a great matchup. And the NHL how they manage everything, John, has the first seed and the third seed playing in the second round. I know Larry Brooks wrote about it in the Post today. And we've been talking about the NHL and the incompetency of Gary Bettman and his team. It's really amazing. He's been in power for so long, and everyone says what a great job he's done. And to me, he's the number 4 sport. How has he done a good job?
Yeah, but you know what? Revenues are up. They're getting larger TV contracts. So in a way, as long as they're making money, he's a successful commissioner to them.
Right, but they're setting the bar too low is my point. I think they're just setting the bar too low. I think it's a
Yeah,
great sport, and I think if it was just marketed better, they're doing better. You know, the outdoor games is bringing a lot of eyes to their sport, not
yeah,
expanding their playoffs, thankfully, because the NHL used to always be the running joke. They were the first ones, right, back in the old days where
yeah,
they did
yeah.
expand. They had 16 out of the 21 teams
I
make the
remember
playoffs.
that.
So they cheapened the playoffs to a level of insanity. So I guess I should give Bettman credit. He's like, this is absurd. Then he added like 12 teams or whatever they've done, and now it's at least a good. The regular season does have meaning now. So
And
I guess he has done some good there. Now the dread is going to the national network for the next round with John. If I'm not watching pretty much any hockey but the Rangers. I'm just hoping that we're not seeing those names on the screen when
they
the
have it.
game's going
Yeah,
on.
they still
They
have it.
they're still doing it, right?
They're still doing it. It's
That is
terrible.
gonna. I want them. We got to get it out there. I mean, I know we have our audience isn't that huge, but spread the word. Get rid of this thing. I know I did see it on the internet. Somebody was talking about it in the mainstream sports media. How absurd! Like they missed basically. I think it was Phil Mushnick, the inevitable, right? Only the inevitable. I shouldn't say inevitable, but the guy's been around forever. Get a little shout out for
Wasn't it?
Phil Mushnick, John. Do you still read his column? We'll give him a little
I
life
do.
here. You
I
do.
actually do. Yeah, I do. Yeah,
The cynic of all cynics.
yeah.
He's got some good ones though, but
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
he actually.
I was actually watching a game. It was a Ranger game, actually. And was it the Ranger game? I'm not sure but they had the names. And the funny thing is you would think that if they have the names there, that it would actually follow the player well enough. It's actually lagging behind the player. So you have these players going, and like their name is it's following behind them. I'm like, what is this nonsense? What kind of graphics is this?
It's complete utter nonsense. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago in our NHL preview, and I'll just keep talking about it because it's absurd when you're watching these games. The screens are so cluttered as it is. I have a large TV. A lot of people have large TVs, right, John? I don't know how
Yeah,
large your TV is. It's still not large enough to get rid of all the stuff that is on the screen.
it's true. And you have to give credit to our playoff preview hockey guru, Steve, where he said that he didn't think that the Rangers were going to go more than 5 games with the Capitals.
Yes.
So he was pretty good on that.
Absolutely. And he's got the Rangers winning the Stanley Cup, which means we know what his predictions are. So he will take Carolina, attack Carolina. He will take the Rangers over Carolina.
Sure.
John, I'm going to go with 7 games again. Rangers do win, though, and they advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's going to be, I'm being positive, but still doing the semi negative with the 7.
Yeah, well, that's our nature. We have to be a little negative with our teams.
And
But
eventually I'll be right. If I keep saying every series is going to win in 7, one of these series is going 7. So I will be right eventually.
you know, I was watching the Islanders play the Hurricanes, and they were in every game,
They were,
but
yeah.
clearly you could see that the Hurricanes were a better team than them. I mean, the
Yeah.
Islanders, they're saying, oh, they need massive changes. They stuck with the Hurricanes, but the Hurricanes were clearly had more talent than them, clearly.
Yeah. It's hey, that's they're a good team. This is going to be a tough series for the Rangers. This is going to be
Yeah,
a huge challenge. They are the betting underdog, so that's out there. You do have to play everybody in this playoff style, so I guess you can eventually play all these tough teams. And the other side still to be determined. Boston with a little upper hand. Toronto's trying to try to survive. At least they made it 6 in overtime, right? I actually got
yeah,
lucky. I think it was right after the Nick game, right? I turned on the
yeah,
hockey and the overtime was like, oh, it's overtime. Boom, game over.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You did the same thing, or
yeah.
no?
No, yeah,
Wow.
I did. I did the same thing because I was so
Uh,
angry.
let's go watch
I knew I
hockey.
was going to be up all night. I said I have to watch something now.
You had a rough week, but you're gonna bounce back, John. You're gonna bounce back.
Yeah, well, You know,
Anyway, well, that's our winter sports. How, my God, I understand our Nick fan being absolutely devastated, and me being a semi-Nick fan, it was pretty upsetting to see that happen. But
because
what
we've
a,
seen it before. We've seen it before. That's the problem.
of
We've
course,
seen
of
it before.
course.
A different, what was it? Almost 25 years ago, we saw the same exact thing happen. Stupidity.
Yeah, well,
Not
Reggie
thinking
Miller,
things out. Just not.
and they
Anyway,
had,
I'll
and
leave
you
it
had
at that.
Charles Smith too, and the Charles Smith thing was a different sort of thing,
Oh,
but
please.
similar.
That's even that's. I mean, at least with the Bulls, you knew. Listen, if we beat them, it's gravy. If we lose to them, expected to lose to the Bulls back then. But this team, it's a very evenly matched series. I was afraid of the 76ers. I wish we were playing the Heat because the Heat are just getting wiped out by Boston. I just wish that the Heat would have won. It would have been so much easier for us. And I don't think Boston would have beaten Philadelphia because Philadelphia is playing the type of game that we play. And that's why I did not want to face it because I knew we were going to pound on each other this entire series. And
Uh,
this is exactly what's happening. And they have bigger guys than us too. If you look at their lineup, all of their guys are taller than us. All of them.
yeah, they're
They have
they
they have
they've got players. They
yeah,
have a
they
good
do.
team.
They
They
have good
hurt. They were
players.
hurt. They should have never been in the playing
Right,
situation, right? They had
right.
all the
They're a good
injuries,
team.
but
And
he's
Beats
at.
on 1 foot and he still
That's what I'm saying.
scores.
He's at
He's
65%. All right, John.
anyway.
No more Knicks. It's gonna be okay, folks. And I do have to mention quickly, YouTube.com. Make sure you like the episodes. Make sure you subscribe to the show. We really appreciate it. So where you want to go, John? What's next?
um, listen, let's go to the draft. How
The
how did the
draft.
Jets how did the Jets do?
Well,
And
John.
our man wonder Alexander had some picks that went pretty high, higher than I thought they would go. And the one that he pointed out, Jordan Travis, coming to the Jets.
So yeah, let's give quick kudos to Alex last week. People could still watch the show. Predicted that the Vikings would trade with the Jets in the first round,
Yes, he
and he
did.
actually said nobody's talking about it, and it happened. Then he did also with the quarterbacks. He almost hit it, John. He almost hit it. He said they would go first four in a row. It went three. So that was the one tiny mistake. We'll give him a mulligan on that. And then he mentioned Travis, Jordan Travis, who ended up going to the Jets. I think we talked about a sixth rounder. He ended up being at the end of the fifth.
Fifth,
But
yeah.
John, I think there's two stories. I mean, there's actually multiple stories with this draft, and I think it's fun for us old guys to see the young fans and how optimistic they are. And now suddenly Joe Douglas is now becoming a savant again for some reason, which is TBD. And I've actually been one to kind of speak of him pretty highly over the years. Last year with the Rodgers trade, he's still to this day is still upsetting me, but I do know that the owner was involved in that piece. He knows how to maneuver around the draft board,
Yeah.
but in my opinion, this particular draft, and I'll get to the two guys they picked up in the top two picks. We went into the third day, having 3 fourth rounders, where I feel fourth rounders is a gold mine for good players that fall out those first 2 days. And I'm thinking we can literally get 3 guys who maybe can contribute in 2024, not even counting the first 2. So I'm like, this is a great opportunity. I'm sitting down waiting for them to take a player. There's multitude
Yeah.
of good players taken,
Yeah.
and they just kept on moving down and moving around. And he got too cute. And in the end, right, when you have to net all the trades out, what he did was he took 3 fourth round picks. Okay, obviously he traded back one slot, which is a no-brainer trade. Kudos for him.
Yeah.
But then he took his 3 fourth rounders and ultimately traded them into fifth rounders. And the only fourth he left himself with was the second to last pick of the fourth round.
Yeah.
And he picked up a third-round pick next year, which is always a good trade. If someone's going to offer you a third for a current fourth next year, you're going to take it 9 out of 10 times. It just always makes sense. But that sort of trade is for a GM who's got some house money to play with. Joe Douglas doesn't have house money. So I'm looking at this draft and I'm thinking to myself, okay, the tackle, we talked about it. You want to get a tackle in a tackle-rich draft. And Olu Fashanu, and he may be Fashanu, but we'll find that out eventually. Olu is what I'll call him, is a guy that may not play a lot, obviously, because the goal is that their old tackles, Smith and Moses, are going to be able to play, which we know is very unlikely, right, John, to play the 17 games.
Yeah.
So he's going to get snaps, not to mention maybe slide him into guard if those guys by miracle stay happy. And then the kid in the who ended up being taken in the top of the third, Corley, the receiver, is a must-need playmaker guy. Now, he did play at Western Kentucky, so his competition was not top-notch. They played Ohio State. My boy Richie, I'll throw a little bone out to Richie, is a huge Ohio State guy. He remembers when they played Western Kentucky, and he said, oh, yeah, he was a good player, but it wasn't like he took over the game against top competition. So people are going gaga over Corley. I'm going to reserve my opinion, obviously, until he actually plays some games. So the first 2 picks were solid picks, got too cute, took 2 running backs, John, which makes absolutely no sense. There is not a roster spot available for 2 guys. It made no sense. I know I'm going on here, but just to quickly and get in the end, it gets to become a kind of a crapshoot. I knew they were never going to trade the last pick, John, in a million years, because they wanted the marketing opportunity to have Mr. Irrelevant. Unfortunately, they took a safety. I mean, they should have taken some like a kicker or like a court. That would have been a good place for a quarterback, right? Too, if they could have marketed him around. So anyway, that's my opinion. The realistic opinion is it's like I don't give grades. All my grade is, John, incomplete. We'll see you next year. We'll talk, and then we'll give grades to the draft. That's my view.
The funny thing is they just released a video. And it's about 3.5 minutes.
All right. I haven't seen any of this.
Okay. Of Joe Douglas trying to make the trade for Corley.
Okay.
And how many teams they were calling and how they were fretting over it. And they were actually, you're going to laugh, they said that this was a version of draft day. They said this reminded them of draft day. So, I was watching him in action, and he didn't do a very good job of negotiating, to be honest. They were trying to give much later picks for Corley, and no one wanted to, take the 72nd pick. And I understand all that, but he was making so many different offers to so many different teams. No one was biting. And then they kind of knew that he was desperate. And then he said, all right, give it. I think Woody Johnson was in front of him. He says, all right, well, we'll do it. We'll do it. He's telling him, we'll do it. At whatever it was, he gave up 157 or something like that.
Right.
So
Woody's in the room telling him to do it. That is a scary.
And his brother was there too.
Of course, John. Well documented on the Bouk and Zoobie show about what's going on at the Jets.
Yeah, they were there.
Of course, they're there every day. Every day. This is a bad marriage with management and how it's set up, but it's just the nature of being a Jet fan right now. Woody Johnson and Chris Johnson are not selling the team.
And Robert Saleh, anything that Joe Douglas does, he's giving him the bear hug. Oh, buddy, he's going to be the one firing you, my friend, if you don't coach well this year. So you're going to be fired by your bear hugging buddy over there.
Okay, I want to put 2 things out there, all right? And actually, it's I'm going to do. It'll be 2 things. Joe Douglas will get to hire another coach, all right? So I'm going to put that out there in May. Today's May 1st. Second one, picking these running backs. I'm getting a little concerned that the Jets are dumb enough to lose Breece Hall. Ooh. Now, Breece Hall was not a number 1 draft pick. They have 3 number 1 picks in that draft. Sauce, Wilson, and Johnson, right? That all have what would they call the 5th-year option, where that's called leverage for the team. Breece Hall is not a first rounder. He's got a 4-year deal. And guess what, folks? He can be a free agent unless they franchise tag him after 4 years. This is something that I'm going to put out there now, John, that I'm concerned because if you watch Breece Hall, he is a bit of a loose cannon. Never one. He's not shy to go out on social media. I think he's friends with guys like Becton who they don't like. He's a guy, he knows how good he is, and he might want to just get out of this circus. This is something to watch, Sean. I'm putting that out there. Don't be stunned, Jet fans. A year from now, you're hearing this hot and heavy that Breece Hall may leave. And what the Jets should be doing to shut me up, John, is extending Breece Hall now, because don't even let it get into that situation where there's any bad blood. Go out and extend them now, because you know you've got to sign those 3 other guys as well, and that's your nucleus of your franchise, those players, plus the guys they took this past draft. So that's something to watch.
And by the way, you mentioned Becton. He thought he was going to get such a large contract. He ended up getting 1 year from the Eagles. 5.5. That's it. 5.5. That's it. He thought he was getting big money leaving the Jets.
He didn't perform. That's it. He did not play well enough. That's it. It's great that he actually played this year. So good for him. For the Eagles, John, what a great move. What a great move. It's a 1-year prove-it deal on a team like that. He's going to be a backup, but they've been having a lot of issues with injuries. And then he can step in. If he's your third tackle, it could play the right or the left side at $5 million. I mean, Mike, that's a good, and that's the problem. We're taking these guys, the Jets are taking players in the first round, and then they're going to other teams on their second contracts all the time. And some of them actually end up being good players. Not predicting that with him, but with a new atmosphere, with the coach. I know the Eagles, that's a good team to talk about in general, right? I mean, the GM still, he does a great job, but with the coach on the hot seat, they're going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, so that's the view on the Jets. The Giants, I think it worked out. I mean, they allegedly were trying to get Drake May, John. They really allegedly tried, and I believe it. But they get a great player in Malik Neighbors, who hopefully will not be another Kadarius Toney, because he does have some baggage, John. So Neighbors is a talented kid, but they have a little of that off-field stuff that they may, could be an issue, especially coming up to New York.
Yeah, and it was no secret that they were trying to get a quarterback. So now, if you're Daniel Jones, you're saying to yourself, okay, they gave me a top receiver. Yeah. They actually ended up getting some decent time. I mean, they ended up getting a tight end, a running back. I mean, they were concentrating a lot more with their offense,
right? Which they need.
Yeah, which they needed. I mean, usually they're always going for defense, but this time they were pretty aware of what they needed. But the fact of the matter is they tried very, very hard to get May, really hard. I don't know why people were thinking that the Patriots were not going to select a quarterback. I kept reading this all over. I'm like, that's what they need. Why wouldn't they select a quarterback? I didn't understand that.
I think the Vikings offered them their 2 1s and a 1 the following year to move from 11 to 3. I was if that has actually happened, I'm like, that's a lot. And but yeah, so Drake May, who I'm a little concerned about Drake May. Now he goes to New England. That's not a good sign. So that could come back to haunt me, John.
Yeah, but the funny thing is you had him pretty down on your list, lower than the other quarterbacks. I mean, you actually had him lower than Penix. And by the way, what did you think of that pick? You don't tell Cousins what you're doing at all, and you go and pick a quarterback?
Well, we didn't. Yeah, you didn't open it up to the rest of the league, which is a perfect segue to the rest of the league. There's no other. I mean, that is one of the. I mean, I will throw it out there, and many have. It's not like new news, but I mean, literally one of the dumbest selections in the history of the NFL draft. As you know, John, I am a draft Nick. I've been watching this event for multiple decades. This one was beyond a head scratcher. And I worry about Arthur Blank's acuity at this point, because how this went down, and allegedly he wasn't like he didn't know what was going on. It's a little
He was
weird,
arguing with his GM. They have a
right?
picture of him arguing with it looked like they made the pick without his authorization or whatever, but he looked angry in the picture.
That's what I'm
I don't know if you
saying.
saw that.
I did. That's what my point is like, is he all there? He's an older gentleman. It's just weird. It's unexplainable. And it's funny because Terry Fontenot, who's the GM, he's like in the Joe Douglas category.
Yeah.
Has had terrible results, and he's still the GM. I mean, it's really just a bizarre thing. Not to mention, can you at least trade down? And it's so funny because the Jets allegedly were trying to trade for Dunze, which would have been a perfect match with Atlanta. And the Jets would have definitely given up 72. I'm sure in the show they maybe talked about that. And this guy thinks like the Raiders, I think, were going to trade to 9 and take him if that happened. And it's like, dude, you don't even need him. I mean, it's just Kirk Cousins, and that's the other side of this, right, John? He's a sensitive type of guy. And he sees this happen, and I mean, I'm telling you, that is just a recipe for disaster.
Well, you don't notify. I mean, he just signed a 4-year massive contract, and you don't tell him that this is what you're going to do. So what is the strategy here now? So you're gonna have Panic sitting on the bench for at least 3 years, 2, 3.
Well, 2 definitely, 2 definitely. But even that strategy is so flawed.
And how old is he? He's older, isn't he?
Yeah, he's an older prospect. Yeah, he's older. He's going to be 24 or 25 during the season. He's already 24, and he's going to be 25. He's an older prospect. John, you know, people like being Jet fan. There's no worse organization. And it's funny. I don't think we celebrated this a few weeks ago when it came out that the Buffalo Sabres at the end of the hockey season tied the Jets for futility with their 13th consecutive non-playoff season. Thank you to Buffalo. We have company, John.
Well, the funny thing about that one is that I read that they've had 7 coaches since 2010, 7, and that they signed, what's his name? Granado was his name, right? Granado?
What their coach? When a coaching perspective,
they coach.
Yeah. Well, now they have Lindy Ruff is going back there again.
Right, but what I'm saying is the guy that they fired, they had just signed him to an extension.
Yeah, something crazy.
His contract was good until through the 26th season. And they just did it.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that sounds like a very familiar type of management.
Well,
when I saw that, I'm like, wow, they're a lot like us, aren't they?
Well, they're the Buffalo Bill owners. They're the same, the Pagulas, very wealthy people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the wife is ill, so we wish her the best. But yeah, no. So, well, yeah, the rest of the league, the Penix thing stole the show, John.
I wanted to ask you,
Yes.
You had texted me when the Jets selected, what was his name? Braylon Allen?
Braylon Allen, yes.
Yeah. So what's I don't know anything about him. Why did you like that pick? You know him?
He's a bruiser. He's a good. Yeah, I liked the Allen pick until they took the running back in the 5th round. Then I was like, what the heck are they doing? So nothing against Allen, but he's more of a physical running back, extremely productive. Played at Wisconsin, played like 4 years there. Big guy, runs a little high. Right, he's one of these, not comparing him to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry runs high because he's just so tall. Braylon Allen is a tall guy, so he could definitely help goal line situation. That's why I'm telling you, I'm throwing it out there about the Breece Hall, because this is not a guy that you're thinking this guy could be a number 1 running back in the NFL, and that's what makes me thinking like, what is going on? And now everybody, of course, went after, oh, it's Izzy. He's not, it's his. Right. That's the problem. But anyway, to be determined. I don't want to get too much into that, but Yeah, no, he's a good player.
Yeah.
It's just it's a need thing. The NFL, John, there's a certain amount of roster spots, and there's not enough. It's just a bizarre move, but the Jets do bizarre things, John, and that's
And
what I
and
want to get back to them.
there were quite a few
Yes.
that were not drafted that they ESPN actually had them. I don't know. You know how they have like based on talent, who's next, who should be
Yeah,
selected.
best
And
available,
and
right?
one of them actually was that kid. I wrote it down, McGregor, that they ended up taking from Michigan. They because I kept seeing his name all night. He never got selected, and the Jets ended up actually signing him as a
Yeah,
non-drafted
undrafted free
player.
agent. Yeah, well, he's going to compete for a job. Practice squad candidate. He's like one of these grinder guys. I mean, yeah, it happens, John. Undrafted free agents make it, and you like to have them on your roster because they don't cost you anything. So
Right?
I think I've said this in the past. Every year, I like to see at least one make it. It's a cheap option, and
Yeah.
it's a guy who's usually a hustler and a grinder guy, and let's see what he can do. But I think they brought in a number of guys. They got a guy from Miami, a D tackle. I think his name's Taylor, that had been highly regarded as well. So
Yeah, they
it
got a couple
happens
of.
around the league.
Yeah, they got a couple of. I wrote it down. They have a couple of. They picked a couple of wide receivers. One of them was Marcus Riley from Florida A&M.
Yeah, well,
Another guy,
yeah,
Tyler Harrell, who did a 4.28 in the 40. This guy's fast. I don't know anything about him, but when I read, because we had all those that booklet on all the different draft, and I
I know
looked
I
him up,
haven't had time.
4.28 in the 40. I said, wow, this guy is
All right,
lightning.
well, we have to do some more work on the undrafted free agents. We should mention Alex's three guys that he gave us, John. Were you following?
I
They
did.
actually, two of the guys went at the end of the third round, and then
That's right.
Eric All, who can't love a guy's name is ALL, got selected in the fourth round. So it was Luke McCaffrey, I think it was the last pick, right, in the third round.
Yeah, 100. Yeah.
Yeah, and then unfortunately the other Dwayne Carter, right, he went to Buffalo, right? He
Buffalo, 95. Yeah.
95. So there you go. The three guys. It is so funny. I've told this story to a few people, and I'm like, either may have discovered the draft guru before everybody else has. Now, if he hits on these guys this year, we're gonna have like the red carpet. Maybe we'll get him a crown or something for next year.
Well,
Anyways,
I actually congratulated him by text when the Jets did the Vikings trade, and then the same thing with Travis. I was texting him, and he was so happy when he ended up getting Travis. He was so happy.
anyway, well, hopefully people still go back and watch that episode. Didn't deserve, it deserves more views. That's all I'll say. He did a good job. But anyway, so there's so many storylines across the league. The quarterback situation. It's going to be exciting for the NFL to have all these young quarterbacks coming into the league. And when you've got what is it, four in the top 10? No, five in the top 10, right, John? So
It was
two out of
six
the
in the top 12.
six in the top
12.
12 because Bo Nix got. So it is a virtual guarantee, folks, that out of those six, three probably are going to bust. I think it's
Yes.
pretty safe to say.
Yeah. Yeah. You were calling it during our draft program, and again, I'm watching it. It reminds me of the draft with Zach Wilson, where you had
Yeah.
all these quarterbacks, and one of them
Well,
I think was Josh Rosen, who was upset about going to a team, and he just totally crashed and burned,
no, that
crashed
was the
and burned.
Darnold draft. You're getting your Jet
Oh,
disaster
sorry,
quarterback.
sorry,
No,
that's
it's
right.
okay. No, the Zach Wilson draft. That's when they had it's with Trey Lance.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, that's
That
right.
was
It was
that
a
version
Darnold.
of
Yeah,
disaster.
yes,
There's been a
Darnold.
lot of Darnold, the Mayfield. Yeah, that was pretty. Except for Josh Allen, right? And that's the Jets could have stayed at 6 and drafted Josh Allen. That's another story for the book, John.
Yeah.
So as always on the Bouk and Zoobie show, we always end up getting back to the Jets, but we got to move
Well,
on from the Jets.
speaking of quarterbacks, former quarterbacks, Phil Simms and Boomer were removed after all these years with CBS.
Well,
And who replaced them? Matt Ryan and J.J. Watt. So
Yeah.
obviously they're looking to get younger on that show.
Something. Boomer and Sims, they had a great run. I like those guys. I haven't watched the NFL Today in, I don't know, 15 years. I never watch these shows. It won't matter who's on them. I don't watch them.
Well, Jason Kelsey actually got a job with Monday Night Football. He's replacing uh, Robert Griffin and the show, the that
Oh,
ESPN countdown show.
okay, yeah, well, okay. Well,
So
RG3,
showing off your belly and at a football game pays off, doesn't it?
well, he's a veteran. The Kelseys they're cashing in, John. They're cashing in. RG3, he's a Baylor Bear, so I gotta love him. He says some outlandish things sometimes, so he'll still. I think he's gonna be calling a lot of college games. It's a little more in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, yeah.
Those shows, I don't, John. I honestly, I don't watch any of them
I don't
anymore.
watch any of them either.
It's
The
sad.
other
So
thing, football wise, which I'm very happy that they corrected this, is that Reggie Bush ended up getting his Heisman back.
he did.
It's listen, I was waiting for them to do that because anyone who was receiving any type of money back then, you know what? If you penalize them, look what they're doing now. I mean, it's just a free for all. So
Well, it was a free
why
for
not
all.
give the man back his
Yeah.
Heisman?
No, he should have never lost it. Yes, good for him. Any other tidbits from the NFL?
No, that's it. No, that's
That's
what I
it.
have.
I'm sure there's more to talk about. We will talk about the off season. We'll talk about the NFL every week, John, because with the Jets especially, there's always content. There'll be some more free agent signings. We haven't mentioned. We have to get back to the Jets one last time. We didn't even mention it, John. This unfortunate situation. John Franklin Myers given
Oh,
away
oh,
for just given away in a salary cap dump where the Jets could have managed this better. He's underrated. That is a bad move for them. They're making excuses about it. I don't know if the Jet propaganda show talked about it. They're saying how much they love the guy. Well, if you love
yeah,
the guy, you'd figure out how to keep him because he's a valuable player. One thing I'm so happy I remembered that before we shifted gears.
yeah. That was a terror. I didn't like that trade at all. I mean, they gave him away for nothing.
No,
Clearly,
it's a
a
giveaway.
salary dump.
That's it. Salary dump. So the Jets, without a few major contributors to their team, with Bryce Huff gone, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
uh, and the same situation here, right? And it's Franklin Myers is an underrated guy. I know people like to give him a hard time because he committed probably two of the dumbest penalties around the last couple of years. One
Yeah.
didn't really deserve it, but he still it happened. So that's unfortunately what Jet fans will probably kind of say. Oh yeah, he's had those dumb penalties. Did a lot of dirty work in there. Was versatile. Played
Yes, he
inside. Played
was.
outside. They're relying on guys now. Hassan Reddick's not a four-down player either. So I'm a little concerned that they actually may have kind of gotten worse on a roster perspective, net, and that's not a good feeling.
Yeah, they feel that the acquisitions that they made before they gave up on Myers is more than enough. But I just didn't like that first of all, he was a contributor and you only gave him away for a sixth rounder. I would have kept someone like that. You want him on the roster, and yes, they could have definitely worked out something. They were trying actually to work out a contract, but for some reason they just couldn't get together on it. I don't understand why. They weren't
Well,
that
the
far
thing,
apart.
well, the thing is, they probably wanted less money for he was going to get less money. The Jets wanted to
Right,
cut
right,
his salary, and they just
right.
signed him. And what as we're getting close. It's like the quicksand of being a Jet fan, folks. We're falling in. We apologize. We got to move on, John. We got to move on because
Yes, we do.
not only did the Knicks have a excruciating defeat, the team in Queens decided to do the same sort of thing another night this week. So this has been, or the last week since we spoke to everybody. So it's time for baseball with Bouk.
And of course, Mr. Zubulake is talking about, and he called it the kiss of death when I texted him about Severino having a no hitter, and he's pitching tremendous. There's nothing else that you could say. He's been going deep into games. He was pitching a wonderful game. And then they bring in Joey Wendell as a defensive replacement. And what's the first thing he does?
For
Balls hit
Beatty,
at him.
was it Beatty?
All he had to do was throw home. The guy was dead in the water. It would have been, that's it. He would have been out. What does he choose to do on a slow ground ball? He decides to go for a double play against a speedster going to first base. Of course, they didn't get the double play. The game was tied, and I could see Severino when he was in the dugout. I'm pretty good at reading lips. I mean, maybe it was in Spanish he was saying, but he was talking about the play to home with Quintana right after that. You saw it. And then, of course, they bring in Diaz, and Diaz gives up a monster home run, which you kind of saw coming because he thought he was going to get away with the fastball several times, and he throws a meatball to Morel, and he just parked that thing. I mean, that was a quick loss, really quick loss.
Now,
But
two things quickly. Who did Wendell come in for? Was it Beatty? Who was playing?
Vientos is playing that night.
And Beatty is, why wasn't Beatty an option there? He's not a bit.
They just decided to give him a rest. Since
Okay.
Vientos hit that game-winning home run the day before, they decided to give him a start
Okay.
before they sent him down to the minors.
And then did Diaz, because I did not watch this game, and did he strike the guy out because there was some chatter that Diaz kind of like struck the guy Morel out before he hit the home run? Did you agree with that?
No,
you did
not
agree with that. That's so funny. Okay.
No, he struck out the side in that, they bring him in when the game is tied, and he ended up striking out the side, but no, Morel, there was no doubt. I mean, no, that's not true.
I thought I read that he had two strikes
Not
on
true.
him, and they thought it was
not true.
Okay,
He did not strike
true.
him out.
All right, so I'm glad you clarified that for me on both sides. So, all right, so that was that's a tough loss, but otherwise, I mean, they are what their record
hit
is.
a home run last night to win the game for them.
They bounced back. So what's your overall feel for the team? They are 14-13, I want to say. Is that what they are right now?
15-14.
15-14. So what's your 30 games in? That's a good barometer.
Yeah, obviously Hauser can no longer be a starting pitcher. He's been as I expected, because I pointed it out. I was worried about him. Quintana's actually been pretty good. Hauser's been absolutely awful. I can't wait for McGill to come back, and maybe we could get Senga in 3 weeks. We'll have a better, because the starting pitching has not been able to give them length. Minaya, again, pitches okay, but he only gives them 5 innings. So every time he goes out, you're using 4 guys in relief.
Yep.
So, we need more length. Lopez has been a find. He's been pitching really well. Ottavino, off and on. Diaz still looks a little rusty to me. But overall, yeah, I'm happy. And I'm actually getting to like Mendoza now, because again, he's using the lineup I thought he would use. He's batting Martinez 5th. So I told him it was either going to be Alonso Martinez or Martinez Alonso. So it's working out. Marte's been out on someone passed away in his family. So he's been gone a little while. But overall, I'm happy. And Mendoza lets his pitchers stay out there. Like, he let Quintana go out in the 8th inning. And, usually everyone's by the book. Oh, we got to get him out. Quintana pitched 8 innings. He pitched very well. And so I'm liking Mendoza a little bit better now. He's sticking with set lineups. I think he's starting to get his groove. He's letting his pitchers stay in. And I just think he needs to remove Hauser now. I mean, give him one more shot. If he gives up 4 or 5 runs again in 4 innings, you just can't let this man continue to be a starter.
That will happen naturally. That will be something, especially McGill's perfect example, coming back. That's the guy, odd man out. So that makes sense. I'm
Did I ever
glad you
tell you
did.
what happened with his brother? Did you ever hear what happened with his brother?
No.
When so Trevor McGill is Tyler McGill's brother, obviously. So when the Brewers, I forgot to tell you this a couple of weeks ago. So when the Brewers were in town, Tyler brought his brother out to his favorite restaurant, which I kind of know I'm not going to mention the restaurant because this is a bad thing for that restaurant. His brother ended up getting food poisoning from the restaurant.
Oh, I did
He,
hear this story.
he was
Yes.
in the store. He ended up fainting,
Yeah.
hitting his head, getting a concussion, went on a disabled list. He's finally back, but he, he's a big guy too. You're not talking about this guy's 6'8". So when he falls down unconscious, I was like, wow. Remind me never to eat at that restaurant that his brother brought him to. But that was really strange what happened. And and so many other things going on in baseball that the arm injuries just continue. So we talk about Strider getting Tommy John surgery. Robert Stevenson, who just signed a 3-year, $33 million contract, is out. Tommy John surgery. You have Wade Miley, Tommy John surgery. I mean, they are falling like flies this year. And your man Tonkin made his first appearance with the Yankees, got clobbered. He lost a game for the Yankees. So he's actually lost a game for the Mets and the Yankees this year, and actually the Twins. I mean, the guy gets around. And a couple of clients of Boris are doing awful. Bellinger, disabled list, 167 batting average, doing 0 with Chicago.
All right.
And
Good
then you
call
have
there.
the infamous Blake Snell, 0-3, 11.5 ERA on the disabled list as well, with some shoulder problems. And they really should have known that with Snell, he has one good year and one mediocre year. This was the time for the mediocre year. So I don't know what the Giants were thinking, and Blake Snell is lucky he has an option for next year because he's pitching really bad. And Jordan Montgomery, who had Boris as his agent, fired Boris because of the mess he made with getting him only a 1-year contract this year. So Boris is gone with Montgomery. A couple of other things that we didn't speak about the past several weeks. Let's go back to Shohei Ohtani now. I mean, this gets worse by the day. So now, before we were talking about $4.5 million that he didn't know was missing. Turns out it's now $16 million that he did not know disappeared from his account. Do not believe a word of this. I'm just looking at this. They say, oh yeah, he changed the accounts and Ohtani didn't know what was going on. Major League Baseball did a masterful job of protecting Ohtani on this. 100%. $16
So,
million he didn't know was missing from his
so
account.
how is Otani doing statistically? I have no idea. How's he been doing?
Yeah, he's doing okay. He's doing
Okay.
okay. I mean, he's doing okay. He's doing
He's
okay.
so
I mean,
you
you would
don't have
like
the
to see him
numbers.
pitch, but you're not going to see him pitch this year.
That's the
He's
problem.
he's doing okay. He's doing. I mean, I think he has 7 home runs. He's all right. He'll end up with 35, but for the amount of money that he's had deferred, can you do better than that? Yeah, I think you can. A couple of other things. John Sterling, the Yankees announcer, decided to retire in the beginning of the season. 84 years old. They had a nice ceremony for him.
Yeah.
For you, the Yankee fans, he was the past couple of decades Phil Rizzuto, Homer. He was the ultimate in homerism with John Sterling. But you know what? I liked hearing him make his home run calls. I thought he was a pretty fun guy. But I always used to love when it's high, it's far, it's caught.
No,
So
there's yeah. Well, between him and Ralph Kiner, there's a lot of those isms over the years. Yeah, no, he is. I mean, a legend in his. I give him legend because I don't like to use legend, but you got to give it to Sterling. He's been around forever. Great shtick. Been on the radio. He can make radio entertaining, and that's the key part of this.
yeah,
It's amazing because it's tough to listen to. It's tough watching baseball, John. Listening to baseball, I mean, to make that entertaining. So the guy's been doing it for decades. So what are they? Yeah. So some sacrificial lamb has to go work with Susan Waldman, or what are
oh,
they doing
I
there?
was just going to mention he actually made Susan Waldman sound halfway decent. I'm sorry, she's a very knowledgeable woman. She's been with the Yankees, but I just can't listen to her at all. There's something about the way she announces. I just can't. Even the TV announcing for the Yankees is awful. If you compare them, again, I don't want to insult the Yankee fans, but we have so much of a better broadcasting team than you guys do. I mean, we have Hernandez, Darling, and Cohen. How much better can you get than that? You guys have Michael Kay and whoever else is hanging around the Yankee clubhouse. I mean, O'Neill, Cone. Ugh.
Well,
Again, I
John,
like those
John,
guys
you're
as
a little
players, but they're
biased to
not
this.
they're not very
You're a
good
little biased.
announcers.
You're a little biased to this, so we don't.
They're boring. No, anyone would
I,
tell you they're boring as hell to listen to.
Well, hey, we got to talk about the Yankees because they're actually doing pretty well, right? So, but they've
Yeah,
slowed down, right? So I'm looking now, seven
they,
over, 7 over. So,
the 7 over. Yeah.
all right,
And
I'm still in it, John. I'm still in it. I
you're
need
still
under
in it.
91.5. I'm not dead. I'm not dead yet.
And one passing, Ken Holtzman, who, if, for those of you who don't know who Ken Holtzman was, left-hander, actually a very good hitting pitcher. Who
Yes,
could
that's
forget
true.
him getting several doubles off of the Mets during the 1973 World Series? Uh, Winningest Jewish pitcher in history, more than Sandy Koufax. I did not know that.
There
He
you
had
go.
174 wins, 150 losses, 3.49 ERA. He had a nice career, really nice career.
Why isn't he in the Hall of Fame? If you think about it.
I don't think he has enough wins. Koufax was something special because
True.
he retired at, well, I shouldn't say that. Koufax retired at what, 31 years old or 30 years old? Holtzman, people don't know, retired at 33 years old.
He was that young, huh?
33. Yeah, I was surprised because I was looking at his stats. And I'm saying, wow, Holtzman retired early.
All right.
It's
Well,
sort of like
sorry.
John Gullett did too. These guys were top pitchers and then they hurt their arms and that was it.
Well, sorry to hear. There's the updates. We should actually we have to call this some sort of segment, the heroes of yesteryear, as I think for our older fan base, when John goes through this, people remember these guys, and the young people are probably like, why do they talk about this? But we grew up with these athletes, and John likes to point out when they pass, and I get it, and it's never a happy moment. But yeah, it's just. That's just the way it is, John, as you get older. Get more
Well,
nostalgic, we'll put it that way, when you're older.
but the one thing that I think the younger fans should know is a lot of these pitchers that were throwing in the 60s, 70s, 80s actually pitched 9 innings, sometimes 10 innings, throwing over 150 pitches, unlike today where everyone's happy when a pitcher finishes 6 innings and they stop him at 90 pitches. They say, wow, that's a lot. He's up, his pitch count is high. He has 90. 90 is nothing. Holtzman was one of those guys that gave you 9, 10, 11 innings, and then they brought in a relief pitcher. So, I think it's good history for the younger fans to see. Look at the amount of innings they threw, the strikeouts they had, and the funny thing is a lot of these guys had very high strikeouts, but not that much, not that many walks. When you look at today, where guys are walking 3 and 4 and 5 batters during 6 innings, and these guys are doing 9 innings and only walking 1 or 2.
Right. It's different
Totally different
philosophy.
era.
The old
Totally different era.
You remember those days? Make them hit it, right? Use your fielders. Why do you got
Yeah,
all these guys out there with baseball mitts? Make them use them. The guys walking guys left and right. Yeah, no, it was a different game completely. But I'm happy that the Mets are. I think they're overachieving, honestly, because they had such a bad start.
yeah,
And if you pull that first 6 games out, they've actually played well. So give them credit. I don't think the crowds have been that solid at home, and
oh.
I know the weather is a factor. Oh, here we go. What do you got?
Okay, so the crowds have been really awful. They've been averaging about 20 to 21,000. So now they just released a deal today. I had to write it down. They call it the $100 deal. You get 4 tickets, 4 hot dogs, 4 pretzels, and 4 soft drinks for $100. And the tickets are not that bad.
Okay,
They're in the promenade upstairs, but they're
right.
not that bad. They're
They,
behind third
yeah,
base. It's not like they throw you out in the left field stands.
right,
So
right.
for $100, look at that. Family of 4, you get to eat and drink and have a pretzel.
Well, right. Didn't they have like the big hot dog game?
Yeah, they had $1 hot dog last night.
Oh my God! So what? Did the plumbing hold up at the stadium or what?
They, it was funny.
Oh, awful.
Steve Gelbs says that they normally. I was laughing because he was dressed up in like a hot dog suit
Yeah,
or
what was
something.
that about, by the way? What is that? I mean, if I'm him, he's been around a while. I'd be drawing the line at the hot
I
dog.
know,
But
but
anyway,
they normally sell. He said about 14,000 hot dogs. They put because of the dollar hot dog, they had 71,000 they put that they made, but they sold about 44,000. So Hernandez actually asked him, "What are they doing with the other hot dogs?" He didn't know the answer to that.
yeah, he didn't.
So they had about 27,000 leftover hot dogs.
That they served the next night. Never eat a hot dog after Met hot dog night the next night.
No.
Definitely
And
make sure they go on a road trip.
what's even funnier, it was actually a nice thing. There was this fan, he's 87 years old.
Oh
They had
God.
him throw out the first ball. His name
Oh,
was Seymour Wiener.
okay. I did not know that. That's classic.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, the Mets, Steve Cohen. Yeah, Steve. It might be easier to like get better players than like having hot dog night and
Hot
Seymour
dog
Wiener
night.
show up. But give the marketing crew over there a little. That was pretty good. Seymour Wiener. That's impressive.
Y- Yeah. Yeah, you're going to give them credit for that, but we're not giving them credit for moving that Hall of Fame, which I still can't believe I mean, it's a circus there, and then they still have the dancers there. They still have the dancers.
So
Why?
have you gone to any game since opening day?
No.
You have not. You went to opening day and that was it. Okay.
Yeah. You could still buy a ticket for $5 on StubHub. Five
John,
bucks.
we talked about this with the Mets. Like, what the heck? I mean, oh my God. And then actually, a friend of mine told me that all these, Gilbert and Sullivan and Acuna, um, are not doing so well. And like, right?
Drew Gilbert actually pulled his hamstring. He's going to be out for a while.
Okay,
Acuna, yeah,
Gilbert.
is not doing
It's
very
not
well. But
Sullivan. It's whatever the other guy's name is, but he'll always be known as Sullivan to me. But
Clifford.
Clifford.
I don't know. Sullivan.
And then what about Clifford though? How's he? He's doing lousy?
He's actually doing okay.
He's doing
It's
okay.
their pitching down there has been very, very good. This guy
Yeah.
Christian Scott,
Right. Tell us about him. Yeah.
yeah, he hard throw. They may bring him up. They may bring him
Really?
up. Yeah, yeah.
And so he's
He's
at
been
Double A
pitching
right
really
now.
well.
He's at Double A. Scott.
Yeah, they want to bring him, excuse me, straight up to the major leagues. High strikeout rates. The only thing is that they're trying to work on with him is, he's trying out different pitches, but he's been giving up the home run ball, which they
Hmm.
want to correct with him. But
Okay.
otherwise, they say he's ready.
All right.
So,
Cool.
and there was one other move I forgot to say. Zach Short, that was an
Right.
infielder, was traded to the Red Sox because the Mets had to get him off the roster because of J.D. Martinez, so he was traded to the Red Sox for the infamous cash.
Cash considerations.
The
Because we'd be
next guy
very
I think that's going to
inconsiderate.
go, I have to say, the next guy I think that has to go, and they're going to probably have to eat $2 million, is Wendell. He doesn't have it. He doesn't belong on this roster. I hate to say it. He used to be really good defensively, and he was always a pretty good contact hitter. I think they're going to have to bring someone else up or in for him.
So has the immortal Thomas Nido had an opportunity to swing the bat yet, or is he?
Yeah, he has actually. Yeah, he actually hit a home run.
Nido has hit a home run.
He hit
Wow.
a
Okay,
home
there you
run.
go.
He's been playing. He's always been a very good defensive catcher.
Right.
I
Sure.
like him as defensively. I like him, but yeah, he actually hit a home run to right center of all places.
There you
Yeah,
go. And
yeah.
DJ, as you mentioned earlier, DJ Stewart is showing some power. That's good. He should definitely be on the team. So as we actually May 1st, Pete Alonso, what's the scoop? It's this John, is this guy gonna leave? I mean, is this inevitable?
I was worried about Pete Alonso, and so far he's hit 6 home runs. But I think he has 10 RBIs or 11 RBIs.
Yeah, he doesn't have many, right.
He has not been clutch at all. If anything, Tyrone Taylor has been clutch.
Yeah, he's been one of their best players.
Bader has been clutch. I mean, did you see how they won that one game when they were down to the last strike, and Bader ended up getting a game-tying
No, I did not.
game-tying base hit, and then right after that, Vientos hit the 2-run homer to win the game for them, and that was extra innings. Bader has been playing pretty well. I mean, we expected it defensively, but hitting, he's actually been pretty good. He looks like the old Bader of old. He really does.
Right. Well, that's good news, but it's
but Pete, like my wife says, because we always talk about should they sign Alonso. She says let him go. He's hit or miss. And she just makes these observations, and she's been very, very accurate. And I just think Pete is thinking too much about his contract. No matter what he says to everyone, and I said it from the beginning of the year, I think it's going to be wearing on him all year.
100%. Bad move. It's like the Kirk Cousins scenario. He's that type of personality, and it's not a positive thing to feel unwanted. Pete likes to be wanted.
Yeah.
It's kind of bummer, but that seems to be inevitable. So hopefully it won't. So we'll see how it plays out with the Mets. And that's pretty much it, John. So we have covered a tremendous amount of stuff. We have not been ranting, and we're not even ranting tonight, but we will get the rant of the week back because I'm sure folks are like, what happened to our wonderful Scream? And we really appreciate everybody watching. And like I said, please subscribe and like the episode. So, John, you want to thank everybody?
Yes, sir. And you can count the Knicks opening as somewhat of a rant. It was like a 10-minute rant.
No, I'm just saying, right. It was definitely a rant without.
I'm just saying, without the scream.
Without the scream. Maybe we'll insert the scream for everybody. So maybe we'll start the show with a rant. We'll have to see.
Yeah. As always, thank you to our producer, Zach Zubulake, and to our loyal listeners and viewers. Again, keep the feedback coming. We love comments, and thank you for the viewership. It's actually been steadily increasing, even with all our different guests. So thank you again on that. Also, thanks to our community partners, Ronald McDonald House, Kids in Seats, and the Jackie Robinson Foundation. See you next week.